Hey, running out of time, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite albums. Originally, I was gonna make this video at around 7 p.m., but, things happened. Some things happened. A few things. More than one. A few things happened. So now it's like 10:30, and I'm running out of time here. I'm super late, so I'm gonna speak super duper fast. I'm gonna do a mini albums review on albums released in 2010. And after this mini albums review, I will stop making mini albums review about albums in the past until like next year. So I'm really happy that I'm at the end of my, every year mini albums review video series. So yeah, albums in 2010. I'm gonna talk about four good albums, also two bad albums. But before I jump in, I would like to mention three other awesome albums. First of all, it's Daughters, self-titled. I know I've talked about Daughters, You Won't Get What You Want, which is one of my favorite albums ever, period. But self-titled is just such an awesome of an album. I have to talk about it, even though I know that it's not going to end up in my year-end list because only one artist can have one entry in the list. But the self-titled album here, not only does it have an awesome album cover, but yeah, the songs are great. It is half the length of You Won't Get What You Want and half the insanity of You Won't Get What You Want, but it's still super insane, loud, noisy, violent, unhinged, deranged tracks like the hit, the virgin, the dead singer, the dead sing along. These tracks are amazing, but my personal favorite is The First Supper. Every time I listen to the song, I just headbang to the song very violently, and I just love the energy of the song. It's explosive. And then the second album that I'm going to be mentioning is Gonjasufi with a Sufi and a Killer, a very off-kiltered, strange, muffled up, grainy songwriter album, and I haven't listened to the album enough to enjoy it fully, so I'll listen to this album more. Same goes for the album Ring by Glasser. Yeah, there we go. I mentioned three albums, and now let's get to the first album that I'm going to be talking about, and that is Vampire Weekend's Contra. So Vampire Weekend is an indie pop rock outfit, and they just dropped The Father of the Bride this year, gave it a review. Not that great of an album, still liked most of the tracks, but this album is probably the best in all three of their albums released in the decade. So yeah, Horchata is the first track, and right off the bat, it's very wintry. It's very cold. But what's special about this album is that even though it sounds wintry, it's not cold and depressing. It's still the very fun, festive, Christmassy, dare I say it, Christmassy, wintry album. Horchata, for example, is a very fun, wintry pop rock. I love the crispy, crunchy percussions and the bleep bloop beats. They are cacophonous, yet they are just very festive. It's like confetti raining down from the sky. And then we have the track White Sky, also with the bleep bloop keys. I really love them. And the keyboards actually builds this really nice groove that is danceable and very wholesome. And also, there are some falsetto on this track that are actually really fun and folky. We have the track Holiday, which is even better of a track. It's a really fun post-punk, almost post-punk track. And the beats sort of syncopated with the keyboards, and towards the end of the track, we get some steady bass riff, which is fantastic. California English is the next track, and this is the only track on the album that feels annoying to me because of the very strange auto-tune crooning that feels uncontrollable. In fact, I think it is intentionally annoying because like this track just stands out from the rest of the track list as extra annoying. I don't know why, but I don't like this track. The rest of the album is pretty good, pretty solid though. Taxi Cab has some sweet pianos and some bare vocals. We get some minimalistic instrumentals as well, which isn't great, but I still like the tone of the track a bit. The track Run has some peppy keyboards, and it is another really fun and bubbly song. The track Cousins have some overblown vocals, some really fun dually guitars, and rambly drums. Probably one of the most energetic songs off of the entire album, and I just really love how lively and youthful the track is. However, it's the next track, Give Up the Gun, that is even more youthful and lively. The groove is steady, the hook is extremely catchy, and it's such a sweet and festive song. We have the second last track, Diplomat's Son, which is more of a low-key track. It has some clear keyboards, some reverby effects on some of the instrumentals. That's kind of groovy. I also really like the extra layers of woodwinds on the track. I don't think it's a great track, but it's still pretty good. And the album ends off with I think you're a Contra. Which is a pretty slow and spacey and quiet ending, not a great ending, not a great grandiose finish. I do like the piano decorations, embellishments on the track, but I wish the ending would be more climactic. But still, overall, solid album, cool album. Shout out to Vampire Weekend. I'm giving this album an 8 out of 10. Favorite track here is probably either Holiday or Give Up the Gun. Holiday. Least favorite, California English. The second album that I'm going to be talking about is Agalloch with Marrow of the Spirit, Medulla Spiritus. So, Agalloch is a black metal band from Oregon who fuses folk metal, doom metal, prog metal, black metal, and post-rock together to make some really emotional and atmospheric black metal. And this album is great in that it doesn't try to be super loud and violent and aggressive. It's very much touchy-feely black metal that's, really emotional and actually really depressing. So the album starts off with a 3-minute long intro. They escaped the weight of darkness with its downtrodden strings and its very natural sounds, the waters running, birds chirping, and it sets the tone really well. And then we have Into the Painted Grey, which is an epic black metal song with its soaring guitars that are actually really depressing, very cinematic as well. We get some lonely guitar solos in the middle of the track, and the very pained, tortured growls is fantastic. The Watcher's Monolith starts off with some really beautiful acoustic guitars, but afterwards we get some really solid singing. Not even growling, just singing, but it works really well with the guitars, and also some nice vocal samples on the track. We also get some really powerful ascending guitars on the second half of the track, as well as the very shrill guitars at the end of the track. I love it. We have the track Black Lake Niđstång, which starts off with some cicada sounds, and later on, some more black metal, folky, prog metal-esque music. Yeah, it's more average than other tracks on the album. I do like the banging drums on the track. That seems to go faster and faster in the beginning of the track. I do really enjoy the tortured howls at the second half of the track. They're bone-chilling. But other than that, the track itself is pretty long-winded, pretty drony and spacey, not really all that eventful. We have the track Ghosts of the Midwinter Falls, which starts off with some crispy guitars. That reminds me a lot of like Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall or some Tool songs. But later on, it really evolves to something more complex. The beat changes in the track is very smooth, very natural, and I really like the prog metal vibe of the track. And to end off, we have the track To Drown. which has some very weepy strings and also weepy guitars that are extremely sad. And the distortion on some of the guitars here are extremely heavy and sometimes even detuned to a point it really feels like the emotions of the album is beaten to a pulp. But we also get some whispery vocals, which just adds onto the very dramatic effect of the track. And overall, I enjoy this album a lot. One of the best black metal albums of the decade. Feeling a strong 8 on this thing. Strong 8. Favorite track here, Into the Painted Grey. Least favorite, Black Lake Niđstång. Third album that I'm going to be talking about is Woman with Public Strain. So Woman is a Canadian post-punk, wavy, wintry rock band, I guess. Noise rock band, but not really noise rock, but their music is kind of noisy. Woman. They are a male band, even though they're called Women. And after one of their members, Chris Reimer, had passed away, unfortunately, another band emerged, that is Preoccupations. But before Preoccupations, it's Women. And this album is one of my favorite albums of 2010, no doubt. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe it's because I'm a huge post-punk guy, but this is truly a special album. So, this album is very wintry, just like many other Woman and Preoccupations and Viet Cong albums. But there's something really sweet and dreamy and nostalgic about this album, yet eerie, off-kiltered, and sort of distant about this album that I just really, really love. The album starts off with the track Can't You See, with a droney intro and some deadpan vocals, but the hooks on the track is very nostalgic and sweet, and the string swell at the end is just fantastic. In fact, the vocals on the entire album, they're all very distant, very deadpan, but it just adds onto the winteriness of the album. The track Heat Distraction is a way more meaty track. We get some bass grooves on the track, which reminds me a lot of like Wire, like Pink Flag, Wire, the band. We also get some weird guitar scratches that are off-kiltered. And the vocal melodies are fantastic. They are mesmerizing, sometimes sweet, sometimes sour, sometimes bitter, has a lot of personality. And we also get some steady drum beats towards the end, which wraps up the track very nicely. All of the tracks on this album, they sound like they're going to be something poppy, but every time it feels like it's going to be accessible. There's just something about the track that just refuses to give in to accessibility, and that's what I really love about this album, is that it has a very strong sense of personality. The track Narrow with the Hall has a pretty straightforward intro, some soft and tender drum beats, and some really, really nice vocal harmonies. And at the end of the track, pretty much all the vocals are drowned in just noise. It's very, very, very noisy at the end. We also get the track Penal Colony, not one of the better tracks here. It's very dreary, very spacey. We also get some washed out reverby effects on the vocals on the track, but yeah, not one of the more interesting tracks on the album, a little tame than the other tracks. And afterwards we have Bells, a 3-minute long interlude, which is basically organ drones. And the track is actually very charming, very calming and peaceful, yet at the same time eerie, and I love that. And we also have the track China Steps, which is a highlight on the album. I really like the creaky wood sort of sound on the track, which gives us a lo-fi feel. But afterwards, we get some pianos and guitars that goes bum, 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 bum. It's a little busy, a little hustly, and it's actually a little danceable, even though it's kind of off-kiltered. And the track really builds tension and builds uneasiness, yet it sounds catchy, and I just really love that. And the track Untogether has a really nice metallic tone to the instrumentals, distant vocals as well, and also a pretty steady beat at the end. Not really all that special, but still not bad. Drag Open is probably the most energetic track on the album. Very punky, very noisy. The instrumentals are detuned, yet they are eerie. And the track ends off really peacefully, really nicely. Really nice, yeah. And we also have the track Locust Valley, which is one of the rare moments on the album because we actually get some clean, clear guitars, which are really sweet, and the verses are really catchy and beautiful. But again, the track refuses to give in to normality, so something strange boils underneath the track that I really love. Venice Lockjaw, the second last track, is pretty spacey and quiet track, but it's gorgeous. It's really nostalgic and actually has a depressing edge to it. And the album ends off with Eyesore. It's an 8-minute long track that is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely. It is it is multifaceted. It is sweet. It is nostalgic. But at the same time, there's something really sad and lonely about this track that just strikes a chord in my heart. The guitars on this track, they are very jangly, very beautiful, very festive. We get some nice jangly guitars on the track paired with some very simplistic drums at the beginning, as well as some really sweet and catchy tongue-in-cheek vocals, which actually kind of reminds me of MGMT. But the sourness and the bitterness and the multiple phases of the track really makes this track wonderful and memorable. It's like recalling a very sweet memory from your childhood or maybe from your past while being in a very sad and broken reality. And it's such a sweet song that has a very lonely edge to it, which I really love. It's surreal, it's mesmerizing, and I love it. And yeah, overall, totally solid album. Feeling a strong 8 to a light 9 on the album. Yeah, it's fantastic. Okay, afterwards we have Joanna Newsom, Have One on Me. Joanna Newsom is a harp player as well as a singer-songwriter, married to Andy Samberg. So that's a bit of a fun fact. Anyway, she has a very unique voice, which I actually really love. It may turn some people off, but I really love it because she sounds kinda elegant and because she sounds kinda elegant when she is at her lower range, but very innocent and childlike at her upper range. So it creates this really weird texture, and it just, she could sing some hooks on the album that only works in her own voice. So her voice really works in her favor. But anyway, back to this album. I didn't expect this before I listened to the album, but it is a double album. And this album is very patient testing. In fact, it is extremely patience testing. It's like lullabies, but even quieter, softer, more tenderer. So it takes me a few listens to fully enjoy the album, but you know what? I love the album. And the lyrics, they're often really poetic and beautiful. The album opener, Easy, is a pretty surreal track. It has its lonely and sour moments, and it reminds me a lot of Radiohead's music. The pianos are beautiful, and the instrumentals are gorgeous as well. I really love the woodwinds and horns. And then we have the title track, which is 11 minutes long, and it's multifaceted, starting off with some sweet, watery, elegant harps. Elegant harps, which is fantastic because the harps on this album, they give off this really dreamy and angelic quality, but the track sort of evolves into more piano centric and then later on more horns centric, and each one of them is really dreamy, really surreal, and I love it. The track 81 is a more clear, beautiful, clean, melodic track. It has a very unique voice, which I actually really love. It may turn some people off, but I really love it because she sounds kinda elegant and ballad, but it's still really beautiful. And the fourth track, Good Intentions Paving Company, is my favorite on the album because it is easily the catchiest song on the entire album. It has some steady pianos that are curious and also feel good at the same time. The drum beats on the track, they are constant, and the vocal harmonies, they are really special, very unique, and the ending of the track is gorgeous as well. The track No Provenance is also pretty great. Even though it is a pretty quiet track, it's kind of sweet and kind of medieval tinged almost. Also, there's a certain sadness and beauty to the track, which I really love. And the track Baby Birch is a really low-key, quiet track, not really that eventful, even though the climax towards the end with its weird rhythms is pretty special. In fact, we have tracks like Esme and Go Long, which pretty much suffers from the same problem in that it is pretty uneventful, pretty quiet, really patience testing. Same applies to the track Autumn and Kingfisher, except for on the track Kingfisher, we get some really nice woodwinds. Anyway, the track On a Good Day is another really slow ballad, but what really makes this track good is the very pretty melodies. And the track You and Me, Bess, is also one of the more uneventful and slow tracks on the album. We also get some very sleepy horns on the track, which makes the track sleepier still. It's not a bad song, not at all. In California, while it starts off really slow and very dreamy, later on the tone of the track changes a lot, and we also get some really nice bass lines on the track. And Jack Rabbits has some hushed vocals. It has some clear folk instrumentals that sound really innocent, but it reminds me a lot of like Phil Elverum of the Microphones / Mount Erie, and in a good way. The track Occident, pretty good song as well. It sounds like a musical number, but at the same time it's very wondrous. I really like the pianos, and the track Soft as Chalk is also one of the highlights on the track. The vocal melodies here, they are angry, they are tedious, they are catchy. Come on honey, tell me, go me, mommy. I know it sounds funny from me, but if it's sung in Joanna Newsom's voice, it totally works out. It totally works out. And on this track, she talks about lawlessness, and she sounds kind of angry, but in a really like elegant and just beautiful, folky, articulate way, and I just really love it. Also, the banging drums towards the second half of the track, love it. Autumn, again, not really all that great of a track, but the swell of strings is pretty nice, and Ribbon Bows have some really beautiful vocals, because the vocals, they just soar to such an epic high. And the ending of the album, Does Not Suffice, is a pretty nice ballad closer with some beautiful pianos. Not really that great of a track, but still pretty wholesome. And overall, it takes a while to get into the album. There are some really sleepy tracks on the album. It's like an album of lullabies, but it's a very beautiful one at that. Feeling an 8 out of 10 as well. Favorite track here? Good Intentions Paving Company. Least favorite track? Esme. So, now I'm going to be talking about two bad albums, starting off with Salem's King Knight. This album is an electronic album, and it's just very tacky, very clunky, very chunky, and very poorly produced. And the biggest problem with the album is that it lacks subtlety, meaning that on every single track here, basically all the instrumentals are blast at your face in the most tiring way possible. Like, it's exhausting listening to the album, and some albums just blast you with loudness and heaviness, and they're awesome and adrenaline pumping, but there is little to no excitement to most of the tracks on this album. The title track starts off pretty normally with some shoegazy synths, some female vocals, some really bassy, overblown beats, and there's this grainy, muddy style to basically all the tracks here, but this style gets stagnant and tired very, very soon on the track. The track Asia has some spammed hi-hats and a very overblown beat, and the track is a hodgepodge. It is a mess. Frost has some rudimentary beats as well as some female vocals, which are again kind of stagnant, kind of stale. And the track Sick has and some other tracks on the album has this dirty South rap to it, like hip hop, dirty South, and there's vocal effects on the rapping, and it just sounds really awkward, very sluggish. We have released the Boar, where every single thing about the track is just super washed out, and it's just Trapdoor again has some rap verses on there, but they're super slowed down. It sounds very exhausted. The beat is drab and awkward. The track Red Lights is probably my favorite track on the entire album. It has some nice poppy synth melodies and ambience on the track. It has a very nice poppy flavor as well. And then we have the next track, Hound, which is easily the most boring track on the entire album. The beat is mild and tame. The track Tracks pretty much has no musicality to it, and it's just so repetitive. In fact, for a lot of the loops and samples on the album, they don't sound interesting at all, and they just keep on being looped over and over and over again to a point where it's annoying. We have the track Care, which has some nice rhymes admittedly, but still, the production is a mess. And the album ends off with Killer, which is super overblown to a point it sounds like static noise on a TV. So, yeah. Not liking this album. Feeling a strong 2 to a light 3 out of 10. Alright. Last album that I'm going to be talking about, Uffie, Sex, Dreams, and Denim Jeans. You know, right now I'm really tired, so I really wanna stop talking, but I have to talk about this damn album. This is such an annoying album. Oh my gosh. So Uffie is a pop star, singer, songwriter, also producer, and dude, whose idea is it to allow her to make an album? Because she is not a talented musician at all. She can't rap. She can't sing. Okay? Her flows are awkward. They are goofy. And her singing is terrible. And that is the reason why all of the tracks here feature autotune, thick, dense autotune, and it sounds absolutely terrible. It sounds very obnoxious to a point where it's unbearable. We have Pop the Glock, which starts off with this very dumb beat that's super dry and tired. It's like Uffie's trying on like fake Brit accent on the track, which is really weird, but then she's actually American. The flow is very sloppy and clumsy, and it's bad. We have the second track, Art of Oof. The intro is very repetitive, very redundant, and everything about the track is just very annoying. ADD SUV features Pharrell Williams. What the hell are you doing here, Pharrell? What the hell are you doing here? The keyboards are super stiff, they're rigid, and again, the autotune. Jeez, the autotune on the entire fucking album. It is annoying. It makes your skin crawl because it's so bad. We have the track Give It Away. Again, the vocals. It sounds like karaoke, like bad karaoke. And the beat is very awkward. It tries to shoot for this, sweet, cutesy thing, and it just ends up awkward and campy. MCs Can Kiss is probably one of the better tracks here because it is actually low-key catchy, like very low-key. The loops are dumb, but the beat is okay and kind of fun. The track Difficult also has a pretty okay beat, even though the hooks and the choruses are totally not that good. First Love is unbearable. This track is unbearable, okay? the auto-tune on this track is thicker and denser than any other tracks on the album. And it's like, even though there's auto-tune, the vocals still suck because Uffie can't even hold a note, and the auto-tune just spirals out of control. This is the track, and the auto-tune and the beats, they are so badly mixed, they sort of clip and glitch a little bit, and not even in a cool way, but in an unintentional way. It's horrible. It's horrible. And the vocal samples, jeez, where did they come from? We have the title track, which sounds very Velvet Underground-ish, and the beat is super slowed down and dragged down. It's a slog. The vocals are sloppy. And we have the track Our Song, which is also super annoying and obnoxious. We get some choppy, glitchy vocals that are so bad it's laughable. Illusion of Love, also super slowed down. They're slowed down, and the vocals are slowed down, and it sounds like, like, who thinks that this sounds good? It sounds terrible, and the production is overblown AF. We have the track Noi Noi, which actually has some pretty fun guitars and beat, not gonna lie. But then we have the auto-tune, totally ruining the track. Brand New Car actually has a pretty tolerable flow. Tolerable, listenable. But the beat, this time it's the beat that ruins the track. And we have the track Hong Kong Garden, which is like a cover song, and there's like no subtlety to the track, and it doesn't do Hong Kong Garden justice, okay? Like, Hong Kong Garden, like what? Like, this track wouldn't like Hong Kong would be the last thing that this track sounds like. And the album ends off with Ricky, which I thought would end off very sloppily and hilariously poorly, but no, it just ends off very anticlimactically. It's a boring ass track. Yeah, it's atrocious. This album is atrocious. Yeah, some beats here and there, they're pretty fun, but like, I just can't bear like a bulk of the album. Yeah, 2 out of 10. Favorite track here, MCs can guess. Least favorite track, First Love. So, have you listened to all these albums from 1 to 10? Rate them, like if you like them, hate if you hate them, subscribe if you want more. Thanks for watching. Yay!